In today's video, we are mixing up a secret concoction that's going to create one of the most beautiful pieces of art in just a few steps. I'm going to show you how to use acrylic paint, hot glue, and liquid gold in a unique way. So sit back and relax, my friend, and let's get started. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to another video. So we're going to jump right on in here with step number one. First, you're going to take some acrylic paint in any color and some cornstarch, and you're going to combine them together to make a dough. This dough is very versatile. You can use it to create all types of shapes, and depending on how you want to use it, consistency is key. So here's the deal. There really is no measurement. I put about 4 ounces of acrylic paint into the cup, and then I added in large tongue depressors worth, as you can see here, of the cornstarch and kept adding it until it was really thick. You want to pretend, all you bakers out there, that you're trying to make a dough. So you would have your flour, you would put your eggs in, and you would knead it and add more flour until it reached that consistency of dough. You're doing the same thing with the cornstarch. If you want to pipe it, though, you're going to only want to add cornstarch until it gets to like a frosting consistency. Okay, so right about here, you could see that would be a nice thick buttercream frosting if we're using that as a reference. It's too runny for what I want to do, however. So I'm going to keep adding the cornstarch into it until it gets to that dough consistency. So I started off with the cup, but now that it's going to start getting really thick on me, I transferred it onto a piece of freezer paper. And what I'm going to do is start adding a little bit of cornstarch at a time, mix it in, see what the consistency is like. You don't want it sticky. You're going to notice I'm going to start mixing this with my hands to demonstrate. If it's sticking to the gloves, it's still too wet. You want to keep adding it until it forms a nice ball of dough. If you have leftovers of this after you mix it up, you can roll it up really tight in a piece of saran wrap and it will stay doughy. So don't worry about waste. You can save it. But you're seeing here, I'm just kind of kneading the cornstarch into the acrylic paint, and it's forming this nice soft ball of dough. And that's what you're looking for if you want to use it for like a cookie cutter to create shapes, etc. So what I'm making today are little golden coins or doubloons, pirate treasure. And all I need to do is take a ball and kind of smush my thumb in it and make a little disc like that. I'm going to make a bunch of these in different sizes, and then I'm going to put them to the side to dry. This is a fun way to make some of those texture pieces that you see out there. You can come up with a bunch of different ideas. I have for this video today, I've come up with an idea that I could use some of this dough and some hot glue to create a piece of texture art, which, spoiler alert, came out beautiful. I can't wait for you to see it. So again, as I said, I'm going to make a bunch of these in different sizes, and then once I'm done, I'm going to let them just dry overnight. They dried pretty quick, believe it or not. It was about 4 to 6 hours, but I let them sit just to be safe. And it dries, very hard. You can break them because it's just acrylic paint and cornstarch, but they're pretty solid. I was pretty shocked. This is a pretty fun way to use up some of those acrylic paints you have sitting around. As for the type of acrylic paint, I would go with a medium body acrylic paint, which is just a standard tube paint that a lot of you have. So here they are, all pressed out. Now I'm going to take some of this beautiful liquid gold. And by the way, they're dry already. This is, the next step. take some of this beautiful liquid gold that I get at Blick Art Store, Blick Art Materials, sorry. And I'm going to paint them all this solid gold, front and back. This stuff is essentially spray paint in a can in liquid form, and it's one of the staples in my art toolbox. It's a must-have if you ask me. I use it in acrylic pouring, texture art, mixed media, resin art. It's multi-purpose, so it's a really good thing to have. So there they are, all painted up, and we're going to put those to the side for now to work on step number 2, which is the canvas. So here is a 16 by 20 canvas that I'm going to first paint black with this Hobby Lobby Master's Touch acrylic paint. I'm just going to speed through this really quick for you. We're going to cover the front and the sides all black. If you want to try this technique and you don't like the color black, I would highly suggest maybe a turquoise color would be really pretty. It's a pink. You're going to see in the end, you can use pretty much any color you want. I just chose black to go with the other decor in my room. So now I'm going to do a second coat of that black paint after the first dries. I didn't show you that because it's repetitive. And while the second coat is wet, I'm just using a sponge to create a little bit of texture on that background. We're going to let that dry and move on to step 3. And now this is where the composition comes in. I'm going to make sort of a wave composition. So this is going to kind of be a golden wave painting. And what we're going to do is use our glue gun to create that shape. And I'm going to be really sloppy about this because in this technique, the sloppiness is what creates the interesting textures. So you're going to see I let the glue kind of puddle up in areas. I kind of fling it back and forth, getting those really thin glue strings. I also create some areas of interest with some little glue drops. I come in with a toothpick, or I'm sorry, a chopstick in certain areas, and I kind of drag it through the wet, hot glue before it dries. I'm looking to create a nice textured piece of art that kind of resembles a wave. So here I am. I'm going to show you how in some areas I made the glue really thick and then really thin. So you want to kind of add that different thickness of texture, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. Because you want those chunkier bits to stick out, I'm sorry, when the piece is done. And you'll see I was able to achieve that by just kind of freestyling it, just winging it. All right, so here's the skewer. I call these things all kinds of names. The skewer. And you're going to see I just made like a little puddle of hot glue and kind of just scratched it up with that skewer just to create a little more texture. Design is all up to you. You know, this is just my idea, but you know, there's a lot of things that you could do combining these techniques. You can make flowers, butterflies. Again, these are just random things I'm spitting out, but you get the gist. Pinterest is a great place for ideas, especially if you're lacking inspiration. Great place is Pinterest. So check out that website. And you could also follow me on Pinterest. I am there. So now I'm taking just a little bit of a black acrylic paint and I'm going to add the cornstarch to that to make a spreadable texture. So the dough was not spreadable because it was too thick. With this one, I didn't add as much cornstarch and just thickened up the acrylic paint so that I can add another element of texture into this piece. You'll notice how slow I'm stirring This stuff will poof up out of the cup. So until you get all that cornstarch wet with the acrylic paint, take your time and go very slow. So you see here, that's the thickness of it, but it's not that, doughy ball that we made earlier. It's still spreadable. So I'm just going to put a little bit on the back of a palette knife and spread it around in different random areas. There's no rhyme or reason to where I'm putting this. I'm just following the composition and putting little blobs of it here and there because, again, when it dries, I'm going to be able to paint this and you're going to see it all come to life and why I chose to do the things I did in this video. So again, I'm taking a skewer and dragging that through the texture. Another way to use this stuff would be with a comb to kind of just comb through it and make some nice patches of scratch texture on a canvas and maybe a spiral design. That would be really pretty. But I digress. Let's get back to this piece. I continued to add in this paste in a few different areas. And when I was done with this, I let it dry overnight. So this is the basic composition. I know it looks a hot mess. It doesn't look like anything right now. But the next part of this is what really, really, really brings it to life and makes everything shine. So in my design, I have these little gaps where the canvas is, where I didn't put anything on there. I'm going to take some gold paint first, and I'm lightly going to fill in some of those areas, not all of them. I'm going to lightly buff on some of this Hobby Lobby pearlized bright gold paint, acrylic paint, lightly. In this first area here, I messed up. I put just a little bit too much. You don't see it in the end because I end up covering it. But you're going to see when I go to the next area and I have a majority of that paint off the brush right here. That's what I was looking for, just a light buff of that gold. So I'm going to do that in some of the areas and along the outer edge to kind of just highlight the edge of the design. Then I'm going to come in with the liquid gold, and that's where everything's really going to start popping because it's a much more metallic look than this gold is, and it just really stands out. You're going to see. But anyway, I just kind of buffed this over some of the areas of texture, some of the glue strings, some of the bare canvas, and then I moved on to using the liquid gold. So here it is after I just used the acrylic paint. Now we're going to take the liquid gold. By the way, this stuff really ruins brushes, so I picked up these from Hobby Lobby. They were kind of too small. I used them here in the beginning for some of the more finer details, but then I ended up using a wider brush because it just would have taken me forever to use this little tiny thing. But if you need them for fine details, Hobby Lobby has them. I think it was like 20 in a pack for $1.79. So you kind of don't feel bad throwing them out. A solvent will take this off of a paintbrush. However, I don't have a solvent to remove it. So this paintbrush, unfortunately, had to go into the old dumperoo, but I had no choice. Anyway, here we go. I'm taking that liquid gold and painting it on top of the texture, on top of the glue, yada, yada, yada. You get the point. Now, here are our golden doubloons that I made. It's the final step. It's going to tie it all together. I'm going to come in with my hot glue and glue them onto my patch of texture in random areas. Now, if you want to be sure that these stay on forever, use something like a Gorilla Glue or an E6000. I make these videos primarily for teaching and, tutorials. And if one falls off at my house, I could just glue it back on. It's no big deal. However, if you want to make something like this to sell, you want to make sure that it's permanent. So you're going to want to use a strong adhesive to put these on. So I just placed them in random areas of the canvas. And now we're going to see the final look of this piece, and I couldn't be happier. It's a really beautiful piece of mixed media texture art and so easy to make. Here we go. So here is my art that I'm calling a golden wave. I love the texture. If you've been a longtime viewer of mine, you know I love texture, and I could not be happier than what has happened here on this canvas as far as texture is concerned. I love the composition of it, the flow. I love the little coins. It's just a fun piece. And again, that liquid gold, I'm going to turn on the flash here for a second just so you can see how powerful it is. It is like really, really gold. So it's much different than acrylic paint, I'll say that. You know, if you've ever gotten a spray paint that's like a really bright gold, that's what this stuff is. So, my friends, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please remember to click like. Please remember to leave a comment, even if you just leave an emoji down in the comment sections. I would appreciate it. Don't forget to check out the description for all the ways that you can follow me. Of course, this thing is universal. You could switch it around and display it all different ways. And don't forget to check out my videos. If you missed last week's video, which was this one right here, where I made a painting out of rope and hot glue, go back and check that one out. It was a great time. I love you all. I want to thank you so very much for joining me. And until the next time, which is next Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, happy creating!